It was supposed to be a simple trip, just a 2-hour flight from Seattle to Denver in time for a weekend reunion with old college friends. But as the saying goes, life has a way of laughing at our plans. That Friday evening the airport was already buzzing with tension. When I arrived, the weather outside had turned from light snow to a full-on blizzard, flakes whipping against the tall windows with ferocity. As I wheeled my suitcase through security and toward my gate, I could see the unease written across everyone's faces. People clutched their phones, refreshing airline apps, murmuring prayers to no one in particular. By the time I reached gate C14, the announcement came: all departing flights have been canceled until further notice. Due to weather conditions, please see your airline representatives for rescheduling. The groan that rose from the terminal was collective, heavy like an audience reacting to a bad twist ending. My phone buzzed with texts from friends already in Denver: you're gonna miss the dinner, stay safe. I sighed, sat down and opened the booking app on my phone. But within minutes, every nearby hotel room had already been claimed. The snowstorm wasn't just inconvenient. It was massive, stretching across the entire region, grounding flights in multiple cities. That's how I found myself stranded for the night inside the airport. And that's how I met the 5 strangers who would turn an inconvenient night into something unforgettable. After 20 minutes of pacing the concourse, I realized wandering alone wasn't going to make the night easier. I spotted a quiet corner near a closed cafe where a handful of travelers had set up camp with their bags and jackets. Something about their presence felt inviting, safer than finding a random bench on my own. There were 5 of them. First, Maya, a young woman in her early 20s with a head full of tight curls and a backpack covered in enamel pins from cities around the world. She was sketching in a notebook, earbuds dangling around her neck, one foot bouncing restlessly. Next, George, a broad-shouldered man in his 60s with cropped gray hair and a posture so straight it seemed carved into his bones, a retired Navy veteran. As I would later learn, he sat in a chair like it was a command post, his duffel bag at his feet. Beside him was Sophie, maybe mid-30s, pacing with her phone in hand, murmuring into it, "Yes, sweetheart, I'll be home tomorrow, I promise." Her tone was calm, but her eyes were tired. At another table sat Leo, a tech guy in his 30s, wearing glasses and tapping furiously at his laptop, as if he could type his way out of the storm. His charger stretched dangerously across the floor to the only working outlet nearby. And finally Hannah, a woman in her late 50s with kind eyes and a paperback novel she hadn't opened, yet she clutched it like a talisman. Though her gaze kept wandering out the window toward the blizzard, I hesitated, then approached. "Mind if I join you?" Maya looked up first, her smile warm despite her obvious fatigue. "Sure, misery loves company, right?" That was how it began. At first we were just 6 people forced together by circumstance, each clinging to our own distractions. Maya sketched quietly. George stared straight ahead, arms crossed. Sophie paced and whispered into her phone. Leo typed furiously, his screen glowing. Hannah turned the same page in her book 3 times without reading it. I tried not to fidget, pulling out my own phone, scrolling aimlessly, but the silence grew heavy, punctuated only by the howling wind outside. Finally George broke it. His voice was low but steady. "You'd think the airport would hand out blankets in a storm like this. Back in the Navy, we never left anyone freezing in the cold." Sophie let out a tired laugh. "You'd think so, wouldn't you?" That single exchange cracked the ice. Within an hour, small talk turned into introductions. Maya explained she was heading home from art school. George was flying to visit his daughter in Texas. Sophie admitted she was a mom of 2, balancing a work trip with guilt over leaving her kids. Leo finally looked up from his laptop to grumble about a missed investor pitch. Hannah said softly that she was visiting her sister after years apart. And me, I told them about my reunion, about how disappointed I was to miss it. But even as I spoke, I realized something strange. I wasn't as upset anymore. As the night stretched on, the 6 of us began to talk more freely. Maya pulled out her sketchbook, showing us quick portraits she'd drawn of passengers: a man sleeping with his mouth open, a child clutching a teddy bear, a woman balancing a mountain of luggage. Her talent was undeniable. "You're really good," Hannah said, her voice full of warmth. "Thanks," Maya replied, ducking her head. "I want to be an illustrator someday. But you know, it's not exactly a safe career path." George snorted. "Kid, nothing worth doing feels safe at first." He told us stories then about storms at sea, about nights when the ocean itself seemed to rise against them. His eyes softened as he spoke of the friends he'd served with, some of whom never came home. We listened in silence, moved by the weight of his memories. Sophie confessed that she hated business trips. "I always feel like I'm missing something important at home. My daughter had her first dance recital last night. I should have been there." Her voice cracked, and Hannah reached over, squeezing her hand. Leo finally shut his laptop with a sigh. "My pitch was supposed to be this morning in Denver. Investors, big opportunity. Now it's gone. Maybe that's the universe telling me I'm wasting my time." "No," Maya said firmly. "You just got unlucky. That doesn't mean you're wasting your time." And then Hannah spoke, her voice quiet. I haven't been able to read books since my husband died 2 years ago. We used to read side by side every night. Now it just feels empty. The silence that followed was heavy, but not uncomfortable. It was the silence of people holding space for each other's pain. Around midnight, the heat in the terminal flickered and went off. The air grew colder, our breath visible. People groaned, pulling jackets tighter. Without a word, George unzipped his duffel and pulled out a blanket. He spread it across the chairs, and we all instinctively huddled closer, sharing scarves and coats. For a few hours, we were no longer strangers. We were a small makeshift family, keeping each other warm. Maya laughed. Suddenly, this feels like the start of some weird movie. 6 strangers trapped in an airport, better than reality TV, Sophie said for the first time that night. George chuckled. Exhaustion does funny things to people. By 2 a.m., everything felt hilarious. Maya dared George to try sketching. His attempt looked like stick figures, and we laughed until our sides hurt. Sophie called her kids on video chat, introducing us as the airport crew. Her kids waved, giggling, and we all waved back. Leo admitted he had a terrible singing voice, and to prove it, belted out a pop song completely off key. His voice echoed through the empty concourse, making even passing security guards smile. For a few hours, the airport wasn't a place of frustration. It was alive with laughter, stories, and the rare joy of human connection. At 5 in the morning, the storm finally began to ease. Sunlight spilled weakly through the frosted glass, turning the snow into glittering gold. Announcements resumed. Flights were rescheduled. People stirred, gathering their belongings. Our little circle sat quietly, reluctant to move. I guess this is it, Hannah said softly. Guess so, George replied. We exchanged numbers, though we all knew the chances of staying in touch were slim. That wasn't the point. The point was the night itself. As I boarded my rescheduled flight later,